Yeah, Archie Hitson.
What did he tell us about that experience?
So he stepped in and filled the gap in my life, and those simple words started me on a journey of coming out of that shell of just hating the world, hating people, distrust of everybody. And it opened the door where my heart was hard. And understand, I was in 5th grade when I moved there. And most kids that age still have a tender heart. Mine was hard as a rock. And you've seen that in the adults, these hard adults. And that's what I was, but he softened it. And the cool thing about Mr. Hitson, he kept up with me. And he stayed at Werner for a long time. And even after he retired, and they moved the school from right there by Denny Stadium over across the river to where it's currently located. But after he retired, if he knew I was doing a weather program at Werner Elementary, he would put on a suit and drive all the way out there and sit in the back of that class to support me. How cool is that?
Where do you think you would be? Who would James Spann be today if it hadn't been for those?
Oh, man, listen, I would probably be the all-night DJ, some radio station in Peoria or something like that. If that much. But if all that stuff didn't happen, if those people didn't respond to God's call to help a little boy and his mama that were strangers in a strange land, I would not, I'd probably be dead or in prison. And, I try to be cognizant of that. That's why I'm in a school every day. I don't have to do that. I don't get paid a dime to go. I was in Athens today. That's a 2-hour drive up there, 2 hours back, elementary school, high school. Why do you do that? You don't get paid anything. You could be home with your family. You could be taking a nap. I mean, I feel like I owe it because there's hurting kids in those schools. And I'm not, one of my gifts is not discernment. It's not. I think my gifts are encouragement and evangelism. But I can discern one thing. I can go into any elementary school. I can look a child in the eyes and I can tell you if they're hurting. I can see it. I can feel it. It's visceral. It's flowing through me. And they're everywhere. And it's not just some, people think, well, that's an inner city problem. No, it's not. The most affluent schools here, you see them. I'll be walking out of a school, there'll be a 3rd grader hanging on my leg like a Mississippi leg hound. Why do you think that kid's hanging on to me? Literally, I'm walking out the door with a kid hanging onto my leg because here was a man willing to invest 45 minutes in them, and he knew I gave them my full attention, and I wanted to be there, and he sensed that. And he didn't want me to leave, and he's not getting that at home. And I don't know what the circumstances are, but, that's why I do that stuff, because I want to put myself in a position to invest in the lives of kids now because of the ones that did that for me when I was young.
So I want to know, what do you say to, first of all, let's take that little guy whose dad's just left. Would you address him? Can you?
Well, first off, your father doesn't define who you are, okay? Your father does not define who you are. Don't let that happen. I thought about that a lot, but my father didn't define me. You look at my father and me, we are radically different people, and you're going to be a radically different person if your father abandoned you and left you broke and penniless and hurting and dying on the inside, okay? So that's got nothing to do with you. You have to make the decision now to go in the other direction and choose a godly life, being a man of integrity. And again, all that matters is your relationship with God and how you treat other people. That's it. It's really easy. So if your father just walked out on you, number one, that's your earthly father. Your heavenly father has never, ever, ever, ever left you. He was always with me. Even if I didn't feel it, he was there right by my side. And I look back on it and I can see it time and time again where I know now he was with me. So he's with you, even if you don't feel it. Your heavenly Father has not left you. You will never, ever be alone if you give your life over to Christ. And the other thing, too, consider treating other people better than your daddy treated you. And that's a way of maybe showing him, let me show him what I can do. And that's important. And when you do that, you'll be blessed.
So let's speak to the guy who's a little older and he doesn't. He's got a child or one on the way, and he's thinking, I have no idea because I didn't have a dad. I don't know how to be one. How did you figure that out?
Well, I think the most important thing is communication with your wife. And I pretty much sucked at it for the first part of my marriage. Again, we've been married 42 years, and she knew what she was buying into, and she knew my background, and she knew that I came from a train wreck, and she is a woman of grace and love and mercy, but you got to have an open line of communication, and I've evolved to say, if I'm doing it wrong, please tell me. If I'm doing it wrong in terms of being a husband, in terms of being a dad, you had a better background than me. You know what it should be like, and I need your help to make me better. And if you're willing to communicate like that and listen, and that's the main thing is listening, then you'll learn. You will learn. You will get that on-the-job training through your wife and through your children. Of course, when the kids are young, I didn't tell them, hey, I don't know how to be a dad. I didn't want them to know that because that would scare them half to death. But as they got older, they knew my background and started learning some things about me, and they both helped me too.
What would you like to say to your boys? What do they mean to you?
Well, I want them to understand that God has wired them differently than me. You'll never be me, and I'll never be you. They will do things I will never, ever, ever, ever do. Never. I can't do. And they cannot do what I do. So, just, guys, don't try to be me, and I'm not going to try and be you. Find out what your passion is in life. God has burned in your soul and heart and body a passion and gifts to do certain things. I was born to stand in front of a green wall when there are tornadoes flying around here. And I was born to minister to children. And I figured it out. And when you figure it out, that's when life gets good. So find out what God has called you to do and plug into it, and then you will never work a day in your life. Never. You've got to follow the God-given passion that you have. And you'll know what that is because you love it. It will be a joy. It might not be easy, but it's going to be an absolute joy to do that. And I think they've gotten that message. I see that in both of them.
What would you want them to say about you?
Oh, goodness. That's for them to say. Just that maybe I was there for them as best I could be there for them. I provided for them. They had food on the table. They had family love. They were accepted. They knew that I would never, ever, ever leave them. Never. They knew that the love there was unconditional, and that was for me and my wife, from both of us. And they felt secure. I think they did. Unlike me, that had no security, none. They knew that this family unit's going to stay together. And by golly, we have. And a lot of that's my wife. She's the greatest. I mean, she's the glue that holds it all together.